Record here. So many ways for people to do this. All right. So if you're online on the C&M community Facebook page, we're going to do some sales, business, and leadership Q&A. Kim's setting us up on the page, and we are in Zoom. So we're waiting for some folks to jump on, but I think, Kim, you have some questions. We should pray. You should pray.
Okay, I can pray for us.
It's kind of your thing.
Okay, there we go. I'm just getting us live here. Okay. Yeah, let me pray.
All right.
So God, thanks for ways to serve other people through our jobs and through these businesses that you let us do at home. And God, we want to honor you. We want to, we want to follow you and be pleasing to you in the way that we run our business. So help us tonight to grow in that even more. So Lord, thank you. Thanks for your presence with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, cool. So let me start off by just saying why are we doing a sales business slash leadership Q&A. So I am a sales trainer, a professional sales trainer and coach. I've been doing that for 15 years, and I stumbled upon the network marketing field, and I know there's a lot of do things the way you want to do them, but not so much specific, like really, really specific training. And so I'm here to help with that. So what I specialize in is setting appointments, closing, referral generation, training and developing your team. That's what I've been doing for the past 15 years. Yes, I started when I was 10. And so Kim and I have partnered. She's a spiritual director. I am the business coach. And we're here. The goal is to be an answer to your prayer of how the heck do I do this? Okay, so that's that prayer that I think everybody has had at some point. How do I do this? That's what we're hoping to do. So we do this, I guess, is our first C&M community event. So yay, we have a few people on live. Hello. It's buffering or freezing, and then we've got some people on Zoom here. So we support C&M community a few different ways. So Kim wrote a devotional specifically for network marketers. We're going to be doing monthly mini conferences where we really dig into the Word and how God wants us to run our business, and then some of the practical application. So those will be like 3-hour online events. And then another thing is we have a partnership with my other company, Emerge Sales Training, to where if our community signs up for any of the training things, then that funds the community, right? So this is a totally free workshop training thingy, but if you guys would like to learn more about how to dig into some of the specific skill sets, I'll go over that again. Is that cool? Good? All right, cool. So I think that Kim has some questions that have popped up in the group that we're going to go over first. And then if you have questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat in any of the ways that we are streaming right now. We've got people all different places. So hopefully, Kim, you might need to go to the actual Facebook group on your computer because mine thing looks a little frozen.
Oh.
I have a bunch of people that are there and saying hi, but I just want to make sure that I don't miss any questions.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and now we can't see you anymore. Here's the problem. We can't live stream on our page and check at the same time.
Okay, no worries. Let's just carry on then.
Yeah, I'll give you some of the questions we've got so far.
Okay.
I've gotten some questions about how do I make new connections / get new referrals.
Okay, so new connections. So I'm assuming this comes from being trying to get outside of your warm market, right? Mm-hmm. So you've maybe sold your products, or all the people you know, or that's how it feels, all the people you know, you have shared about your products and either they have or have not bought, and now you're like, oh shoot, I need to keep having customers. Does that sound like a pretty good thing? Does that sound about right? Oh, Kasha's saying it's not loading. I don't know. Let me, okay. So there's a couple different ways to go about this. The biggest thing that I want to teach you guys is the usual, what I call the usually approach. And this is the crux of all of your like contacting people. And this really helps you to make more sales and ultimately make more connections. So when you're making connections, let's say there's a couple different ways to do it. So I'm going to share my screen. So we have new connections. So we have referrals from previous customers. We have referrals from no sales. We have the new people we meet, like in the park, in the church or wherever, right? Like just new people that we haven't really talked to. So there's a few different ways to get new connections. Hey, Kasha. So let's talk about the 3 different ways that you can do that. So if you're trying to get referrals from previous customers, so you have new connections, I recommend testimonial and bribery approach. So the way to go about this would be to call customers that you already have. Surely at this point they have some results. Oh, shoot. No sound on my Facebook Live.
Yeah, there wasn't any sound.
Tasha, can you put a comment in there giving them the Zoom link?
Yeah.
I mean, either the Emerge Sales Training one. I mean, it doesn't matter. EmergeSalesTraining.com/Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they can join here.
Okay.
I'll have the recording up too. So, referrals from customers. So call and say, I'm trying to beef up my testimonials for my appointments.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to, there's no sound on Facebook Live, Cam. Are you able to get in there and tell them the Zoom link?
Let me try it. I'll have to cancel Facebook Live on our other one.
Oh, now I can see, can't hear. Pamela, would you be able to go and leave a comment?
Do what?
Go to Zoom.
I can go in right now. I'm going in right now.
Oh, Kasha's doing it. Okay, we're good. Okay, so I'm trying to beef up my testimonials for my appointments. Would you be willing to share a success story? So Pamela, if I were to call you and I were to ask you that, like if you were one of my Herbalife customers, would you be able to give me a story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so can you tell me one real quick?
Yes. Let's see here. You want me to tell you a story of a client?
Sure, doesn't matter. Just give me an example. Okay.
All right. I met Tina at the grocery store. She was a cashier and got her on the products, got great results. So I have asked her, can I share her story? And she said, sure. So her story is she got started on the Herbalife products to lose weight after having a baby. She had lost 25 pounds. She's very excited and happy. Now she's going on to maintaining her weight and toning up.
Okay, cool. So we hear that, we get that story from Tina. So let's say I'm talking to Tina and we come in and we say, okay, great, Tina, that is such an amazing story. So surely by now you have chatted with some people about how amazing it is, right? And you are having the darndest time convincing them to get Herbalife, right?
Yeah.
Right, and she'll go, okay, cool. So what I can do is directly reach out to them And then here's the usually approach. Usually what I do is meet with people one-on-one for like 30 minutes, go over their goals, the products, and if they want to get something, cool. Right? If not, no big deal. So what's the best way to reach them? And then what do you think Tina will say?
Usually Facebook messaging is what a lot of people want to do.
Cool. So now we have an opportunity to get referrals from customers.
Yep.
Okay. How does that sound, everyone? Hopefully we're able to get some more people on the Zoom call. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Now referrals, actually I won't erase this yet.
No, I'm all, don't erase it.
Okay. I want to erase it.
Save the notes.
Okay, I want to erase it. Now, referrals from no sales, they can be bribed with product because they don't have any product. Now, the nice thing about no sales is they feel bad. They don't buy, right? So they feel like they want to give you something. So you can use the same approach, except you can just say, hey, here's where you can really, really help me out. No. Gigi. Listen to me. I only meet with people I know or have been personally recommended to. So what I need you to do is jot down, 3 to 5 people who would be nice to me. Okay, so here's where you can really help me out. I only meet with people I know or have been personally recommended to. So what I need you to do is jot down 3 to 5 people who would be nice to me. They don't have to be people you think would buy, just anyone who cares about their health. For every 5 people, I'll give you blank, like maybe a 3 to 5 days supply or something like that, depending on whatever your product is. And you'll be surprised how easily people will do that, especially people that want the product, but maybe it wasn't in their budget. Questions on that so far? We lost all the Facebook Live people.
I posted the link.
Okay. Sad.
I'm still live on the page.
On the page. Okay. And it's working?
Seems to be.
All right, cool. For new people we meet, it's really hard to meet new people and then just like talk about the product the whole time. So I like to use this usually approach is once your product or something comes up, then you can just let them know, well, usually what I do is meet with people one-on-one for like 30 minutes, go over their goals, their products, and if they want to get something cool. If not, no big deal. Is that something that you would be open to? So that should help you to get in a much better place where you can actually talk with them about their products as opposed to feeling like you just have to do this follow-up chasing or this awkward conversation.
No.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Can I erase it now?
Well, can I copy it and paste it?
Do a screenshot.
Oh, yeah. Genius.
I try.
Got it. Okay, you're good now.
All right,
Thanks.
cool.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
What other questions do we have?
We also have, what about recruiting? How do I get new builders for my team?
All right. So new builders for the team. So there's one piece of this that we often don't think about. So before I get into how to speak to potential recruits, we had to do some math. So the industry averages are 1 out of 8 customers want to earn money. And then based on what I've noticed, and maybe you can tell me if this stat sounds about right from experience, that like 1 out of 3 do actually go and do the stuff, right? Do you think that that's fair?
Yeah.
Like out of 3 people that say, yeah, I want to do this, like actually do it. Okay. So 1 out of 3 actually do it, which basically gives you a 1 out of 20 to 24 ratio of customers to team members. So basically what that means is the first thing you need to do is make sure you have enough customers. Usually this question comes from someone who maybe has like 1 customer a month. But you can see from the math that if you only had 1 customer a month, it would take you 2 years to just have the mass in order to find somebody who's gonna build with the business. So that's the first problem. So the first answer to find new builders is find more customers to recruit from. Second, this one has to do with referrals. So here's a pro tip for my followers that you don't know about. So let's say you're doing a one-on-one and you ask for referrals and they put down a few referrals. You can use what's called a hot jogging concept to get referrals that you want. So you might ask for, who do you know that's really well connected? Who do you know that really likes nice things for their home? Like if it's, because you're trying to get like people that maybe can afford to buy the product. But after that, you can also ask, who do you know that could do what I do? And once you ask for that specifically, you've got a pretty good shot of getting what you ask for once they put down their first few referrals. So that's another way. And then you can approach that person with both, your product and your business. The third is just continuously planting seeds throughout your sales process. Right? So, in your appointment, at some point, just saying like, I earn money through this business. Here's why, Kristen. Right, here's why I decided to start my business. If that's something that you would like to learn about, then I will be glad to go over that in more detail with you. In follow-up calls, you can also say, I don't want to make any assumptions. So I ask everybody when I check in, would you like to learn about how to earn money? Right. Obviously, you would say your own company. You wouldn't say, would you like to learn how to earn money with this company? And putting in the buffer that says, I don't want to make any assumptions, so I ask everybody when I check in. Oh, we need some muting. Hold on a second. Oh, you got it? Okay. All right, cool. So that way you're at least putting it out there. Yeah. So those are a few things for recruiting. What do you guys think? Good? All right. We have any other questions?
I have one more, but if we actually have live questions, Tasha, would you prefer that?
Sure. Well, Pamela's the newest to the group, so I want to hear Pamela's questions.
Actually, I didn't write any down. I wasn't knowing what to expect, so let me think.
All right. Do you have anything on the Facebook Live that's
I think one of the biggest challenges that I have is when people say they want to do their business, but their action doesn't meet their mouth, what they say.
okay?
And then I end up spending too much time on them, not sort of convincing them, but wanting them to, because I know they need the money. But in the meantime, it's wasting my time.
Sure. So then walk me through, like, if I were to say, yeah, I want to do the business with Herbalife, what would you do next? Like, what are the different steps?
Well, first you get them signed up as a distributor, and then we have the first 72-hour steps that they're supposed to go through and do right on the myherbalife.com. And they say they do it, but when I ask them questions pertaining to it, they don't even know what I'm talking about. So I know they're lying to me. And it's like being that person wanting to trust everybody. You know, I just feel like that I'm holding on to people that say that they don't. I'm spending time with them. You're supposed to spend time with the deserving ones, not the needy ones. So I struggle with that a lot.
Sure. So what are the steps that you're supposed to do in 72 hours?
Well, one, get on the products and get to know the products, what they are, because how do you talk to somebody if you have no idea what they taste like or what they do for you? And then get your website set up and follow up with me right after you get those done. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Okay. When they say to you, I want to start my business, what do you specifically just say, okay, here are the things that we need to do? Am I understanding correctly?
I'll actually ask them, like, well, what do they do now? Sort of like get to know them a little bit first. Like, do they work already? Are they a stay-at-home mom? And then find out what do they want, how much they want to make. Do they want to do part-time or full-time? And then go from there, you know, because I want each person to get what they want out of it. Everyone wants something different.
Right. Well, I think first off, you're off to a really, really good start because sometimes we miss those steps. So, like, the first thing that you want to find out, and I just really like, I think that this decision to start a business is one of the biggest decisions of your life, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So what I think makes sense is to give people the gravity of that a little bit more space to really have a back and forth conversation. And so what I think makes sense is a lot of the things that you said, right? What are their goals, right? Their income goals, like to set up a separate appointment, not like okay, real quick, let's go over what are your goals, but to actually set up some time to say, okay, so what are your income goals, right? Let's walk through your schedule, right? Let's talk about compensation or what you need to do. Compensation, right? Training and next steps. And one of the things, like when you're up here talking about like their goals, well, I guess this is really the agenda, sorry. You want to hear about what are their challenges, like what do they think is going to be hard, what are they worried about? What we need to know as people who are in the industry is why people don't do well. Right? And what I've noticed is that people don't do well. The big one I see is time management. Or not really time management like in a snarky, like you can't manage your time way, but like literally Kim is sitting there with her baby in her lap right now. Right? Like the actual day-to-day of how hard it is to juggle all of these things is one of the reasons that people really have a hard time. And so, you know, what happens, I think mentally, and tell me if you guys have ever gone through this, where you have something that you need to do, and then stuff happens and you don't get to it, like, what does that do to your head? Then you're like, oh my gosh, I guess I can never do this because I couldn't even do this one thing. And so I think really stepping back and having a frank conversation about what they think their challenges would be, and really have them involved in like what is their next step. There's a lot of different kinds of decision makers. And there's like your, what are they called? Shotguns, right? They're like, let's go, I'm ready to do this. These are like the easy ones. Well, this is who we consider like a good person, but one is not better than the other, right? Then we have collectors, and they want to see testimonials, practical results, so on and so forth. Builders are really into the quality. You won't be able to recruit a builder till they've had like a life-changing experience. And then pathfinders want to see a step-by-step, all the way to the end. So one of the things that you want to do, Pamela, when you build your recruiting structure is understand that that approach really appeals just to shotguns, right? Like, okay, so in the next 72 hours, we need to do this, this, and this, okay? Well, your collectors, builders, and pathfinders are not going to connect with that approach or make their decisions that way. So what you want to be able to do, and I'm a huge advocate, obviously I'm a sales trainer, of making sure people know what it takes to be successful before they go out and run and do it. So like teaching them what a sales conversation looks like how to actually sell the product, a lot of times will help them to back up and be more confident in moving forward with the initial steps. Because I can set up a website all I want, but if I have no idea what to say, what to do in order to make sales, then I might just freak out.
Right. That's good.
Because they're probably just freaking out. And so I think we have to meet them where they are, with kindness and grace versus frustration, because that's what we feel, right? Is like this, well, you don't want it bad enough. I know none of you guys have thought that, right?
Oh, yeah.
But maybe if we just take a step back and ask them about what their challenges are, what are they afraid of?
I like that.
Then won't we know their heart a little bit better? And then we can, we can work with them. Remembering that time management is a big challenge. I mean, most people have never had to manage their time before, like the way that we have to. And even we fail miserably sometimes as leaders. I do it. I didn't want to write my podcast today, so you know what I did instead? I made memes. So,
What about people? So you've done that, you've met with them, you've made the expectations clear as far as what they can expect from you, what you expect of them, kind of gotten all of that out in the open. What happens when they don't follow through? I mean, how do you approach that in like a sensitive way, right? Where it's like they're just not.
Yeah. So I think that it's really important in all aspects of your process to remove pressure.
Yeah.
To make no an acceptable answer. Right? And we don't do that. We know that it's acceptable to us, like just tell me the truth, but we don't actually put it out there. And ultimately what they're doing is they're breaking up with us. I would rather not pick up the phone and just like non-confrontational break up with someone than actually say, this is not right, because that conversation's super awkward.
Yeah.
So like, I just think it's really helpful to let people know in the beginning, if for any reason your goals change, I totally understand. Just make sure you let me know. And what I like to do, and this is kind of mean, like what some of you that work with me, is I will just ask, like, hey, are you thinking about quitting? But
So
not
just like everything else, just ask them straight out.
hashtag just ask.
Got it.
Yeah, and not in a mean way, but just like in a real, like, if you haven't heard from someone, I have the 72-hour rule. If you haven't heard from someone in 72 hours, they're thinking about quitting.
Yeah.
So I want you to think of every time you have not talked to your leader for more than 72 hours, and why is that? Because things were going poorly and you were thinking about quitting. Now, were you actually going to quit? Maybe not. But that's a really good sign, if it's been a few days, that something's not right. Because usually something gets done every few days. If like you've started to do the mentoring process, right, and you notice they're not responding, I just think it's easy, like, hey, are you having a rough time? Are you thinking this isn't for you? The contrarian nature of humans will say, oh, no, it is. Or if you say, hey, I think you can do it, when they don't think they can do it, they're going to tell you why they can't. So give them an opportunity to, like, if we just understand human psychologies do the opposite of anything anyone ever tells me, then, we just change the question, right? Instead of, do you still want to do this? You just ask, do you not want to do this? And you'll get a more honest response. And then remember that 1 out of 3 people are really going to do it. So part of that is just understanding the math and not being upset about that. Now, if you're having like 10 people that say they want to do it and they're not following through, then there's probably some adjustments you can do from a leadership perspective, like what we talked about today. But if you're a 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2 are following through on stuff, then you're doing pretty well, I think. Unless you have a really high barrier to entry, which I don't think most of us do. Like if it's the kind of thing where you have to buy like $1,000 kit in order to start, then that's a little bit different. How's that?
Fantastic.
Good.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool. We have someone new, but I can't see who it is. Dang. All right. What other questions do we have?
I've got one, Tasha, from previous times, if you want me to add that.
Oh yeah, sure.
But if someone else has another one, jump in. They ask, how do I not be that person in church?
How do I not be that person? So what do you guys think that means, that question means? We got to delve into what does that mean? Who's that person? Can you guys define it?
Pushy, like has an agenda, only wants to be your friend because, it's like quid pro quo, like.
They're maybe using church to contacts.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is to just not be that person. So if you're worried about being that person that appears that they're only doing like being nice in order to get contacts, the first way to not come across like that person is just not to be that person. I think most people are pretty intuitive on people's intentions. Would you guys agree? Like you can pretty much tell when someone's kind of fake versus if they're authentic. Usually when people ask this question, like, how do I make sure I'm not pushy? They don't really have the abilities to be pushy. And I always liken it to when you're sitting there crying because you think you're a bad mom. Guess what that means, guys? You're not a bad mom. Because the bad moms are not even asking themselves that question. So the people that are high pressure, pushy, obnoxious, those people are not even asking the question, I don't want to be that person. The other way to really make sure that you're not that person is kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, is the usually approach. So when you're talking to people, instead of like vomiting your product information all over them, is to take a step back and to say, hey, you know what? Like while I'm at church, I typically try not to talk about my product so much. But if you'd like to learn about it, usually what I do is set up an appointment. We can talk for about a half an hour, go over your goals, go over the products. If you want to get something cool, if not, it's no big deal. Is that something you'd be open to? And that works pretty well. So it's the same approach we talked about earlier. And if you do that, then you're removing your conversation about your products from church, but still serving people in the church. And I think that, like, if we really believe in the transforming nature of our products, we don't want to withhold it from people who might actually need it, right? Like, they might be the night before, like, praying for an answer to some problem that you have. And then we're so afraid of how we might come across that we don't actually help them. But basically, the usually approach just makes sure that they're in consent to a conversation versus you just all over them. So that is, I think, the best way. The other way is to not be desperate for contacts, and that comes down to the referral approaches we talked about. Right? Is really, really getting good at referrals. Because then you can go to church and not be sweating it, right? What do you guys think?
That's the place I have problems at church, is shying away from talking to anyone because that's God's place, you know?
Yeah.
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 But, like, you still have to help people, right?
Oh, and I want to.
So I think, what do you think? Do you think that's a good medium place to respect the fact that it's God's place but still serving? Do you think it's adequate, or do we need to do a little bit more work on that?
I may need more on that.
Okay, so tell me what is concerning to you.
I don't know. I've just always felt that that's not a place to do business. Now, if somebody asked me, then it would be easier to say, hey, I can help you, but let's talk at a church.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's usually the context, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's about going up to every single person and saying, this is my business. So you can help with it. Usually what I do. It's really, the context is in just everyday conversation.
Yeah.
And giving it that space. And truthfully, like, I think that's where our faith comes in, where we know that if that's a need, like, God's going to set that conversation up. You know, and I believe that, right? Like, if we're faithful and we're like, okay, God, who can I help today? And that person's like, okay, God, I need help. I feel pretty comfortable thinking that God's going to make that match. But what we need to do is not screw it up by, like, vomiting our products all over them.
Yeah.
Right. And then, then they have to go pick up their kids or whatever. And, from Sunday school, and then it's a 5-minute conversation. They don't have enough information to make an informed decision. That's not professional enough. So by setting up that space, I think it helps.
I like that. Usually at church, I don't talk about my business, but would you be interested in learning more about it?
Yep.
I like that.
Any other questions?
I wonder, Tasha, if you could, I mean, I don't know if I have a specific one, but right off the top of my head, I feel like, what does it look like to kind of like be a leader for your team? Basically, like, how is our faith going to make us different than if we didn't have faith? You know, like, what makes us a leader that is following Jesus? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you gave me an easy one.
Oh, okay, good.
I mean, yeah, that's like, how do we be a godly leader? Sure, let me just answer that real quick. Well, I think that really looking at Jesus as an example and how he led his team is really important. There's a lot of, conventional ideas of what leaders should look like. And I certainly think in sales management, there's specific skills that, just like, I was about to say it doesn't talk about building boats in the Bible, but that's not true, right? But like most crafts, it's not an instruction manual specifically for the trade. But I first think it's about, following Jesus's example of really serving other people first. So instead of looking at our rank, I'll use that as an example. What if we just said, forget that? What are, for our team, what are your goals and what is your rank? Like, what do you want to be at? What are your income goals? What's going to serve your family? And instead of working towards our goals, what if we just helped them and developed them towards their goals? And so that's kind of just like that servant leadership mentality, right? Like, what does it look like to wash the feet of our team? I don't know, maybe I'll ask you guys, since Kim gave me such an easy question. Kim, what do you think it looks like to wash the feet of our team members?
Yeah, I think that's, you got at what I was kind of, thinking about. Like, it seems like maybe some of the distinctions would be that, we aren't first on the list, which is, I feel, kind of like what network marketing culture, at least my company's network marketing culture, tends to be like rank, which kind of like had me focused a lot inward on like, oh, me. And it seems like if we're actually going to engage in, like you're saying, like a servant leadership type thing, that it would be not so me oriented, and that it would be more others focused. So, I'm just basically saying exactly what you just said. But.
And that's why I keep you around. So I think what it means is, like, when God has our heart, we're just way more calm, right? Like, we're a little bit chilled out. We have way more faith that things are going to work out properly. And I think that's also a really important distinction. We're not going to like freak everybody out. Like, can you imagine Jesus being like, guys, we got to go over here? Like, no, he's just like, guys, let's go. Right? At least that's what I imagine him to behave like. And so I think that that's really a great model. I've been in Proverbs recently, and that's just like such a practical book when it comes to wisdom, like about keeping your mouth shut, listening, not being harsh with our team. I think those are all things that show up. Kim, when we went through the fruits of the Spirit, like, what does patience look like? Like, what does patience look like as a leader, to just stop and give people grace and forgiveness? And there's this this book, Lead Like Jesus, and I don't have the page bookmarked, otherwise I'd go grab it and read it to you. But it said something like, we need to remember, like, Jesus didn't come in as a ruler. Like, he came to heal the brokenhearted, encourage the discouraged, right? And give people grace. He didn't, like, that's how we need to approach people on our team. And, like, I mean, I'm all for being tough on people as well. Like, sometimes we need to stick it to our team member, but Jesus did that as well, right? He was like, no, this is not acceptable. This is where we go, right? But at the same time, when his people, like, misstep, he always handled it with grace and forgiveness. So, I mean, I just think that's a posture, and I think that people are attracted to that. What do you guys think it means to lead differently as Christians?
Well, I think a lot of, like, what Kim said about less focus on, like, yourself and what it is that you want, because ultimately, like, the people that are under you on your team have a direct impact on your success. And so investing in them and pouring yourself into them so that they're successful, and in serving them in that way, whatever way that is, because it's going to be different for everybody, then you're all going to be successful together. So, and it's going to be less feeling like pressure, like, I need you to do this, or you have to do this. It's more of like, no, this is teamwork. Like, we are working together. Like, I am here by your side, versus feeling all this pressure from up top to, like, perform and do and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts? Because I have a couple other thoughts that came to mind as you were. I think also, like, there's a couple different passages that, like, really made me think as a leader. And one is the one in Matthew, I think it's Matthew 5, where it says, if a man forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. And I always thought that word choice was interesting. And I don't know if, Kim, you have some insight into that word choice. But, like, it's not, if a man, like, invites you nicely to go 1 mile, or if a man follows through on all of his commitments to go 1 mile, like, if a man is perfect, to go with him too. It, like, says if a man forces you to go 1 mile, go with him too.
Mm-hmm. And
So I think that's really interesting to look at it from that perspective. And the other one is, like, how many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times 70, like, basically infinity. And because ultimately, as leaders, our teams are not going to be perfect, right? Like, they're going to mess up, they're going to miss stuff, they're going to make mistakes. And I think that the conventional world, and I mean, I'm going to preface this with, I have fired a lot of people, but not, like, from a place of anger, right? Like, so if they're like, oh man, you just messed up so many times, I'm not mentoring you anymore. I'm done. I don't think we have that luxury, unless you guys can, you know, find a place and bring that back.
No. Mm-mm.
Right? Like, in my corporate roles, yeah, it was okay, not meeting expectations, not sure this job is for you. I do think there's a lot of space to say, are you sure this is for you? But that's a totally different posture and releasing them from this role is a different posture than, I'm not going to work with you because you're not doing what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the other passages that I thought of. And I was not prepared for that question, so. Hopefully we did all right. Kim, you got any other doozies for the next 9 minutes? I can't hear you.
I said, no, I think I'll hold back.
Yeah, cool.
I have one.
Go for it.
What about communicating with your upline?
Ooh, same 2 verses, I think. Especially if a man forces you to go 1 mile, go with him too. Like, that's literally.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same 2 verses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard, right? Because, like, we want our leaders to be someone that removes our burden, and sometimes that's not the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes they give us more of a burden. But I think it's important to remember that they're probably not trying to hurt us. Probably are just doing their best, and it's just not landing right. And so I think it's like grace and forgiveness, like having that heart and, those verses. But is it cool if I give some practical too? Because I've been a manager for a long time, and I know how to work managers, okay? So what you need to do is you need to find out what's important to them. So just like we would do that with our team members, what are your income goals? What are right? Leadership is a lonely place. Would you agree?
Yes.
Very rarely does anyone ask how the leader is. And what stinks about being a leader is when your team is successful, they get all the credit. And when the team is unsuccessful, who gets the blame?
You do.
Yeah. So the leader never wins. So the best gift that I think as Christians that we can give our leader is to treat them like someone on our team. Right? So to ask them, what are your income goals? What's hard for you? How can I make your burden a little lighter? Just like we would do for our team, right?
Okay.
And I bet you they would tell you. They would say, this is what I'm trying to do, right? These are my challenges. And then we pitch in. And that's going to move you alongside them as opposed to, being like having this contentious relationship.
Yeah.
And always communicate 1 step ahead. So like, I'm a big fan of business reporting. So if you have a leader, right, and you're in a key position on their team, guess what? They're freaking out all the time. Aren't you guys freaking out about what your team is doing all the time? No?
Not freaking out, no.
But like wondering.
Sometimes. Yes.
Well, you're so much more poised than I think most people. You think that's
Right.
You think that's funny?
I'm not poised.
So I think that most leaders are wondering, like, are we going to make it? Because you have no control, right? As a leader, you can't actually go and make the sales unless you're going and making the sales, which is why I think you have less stress. But when it's truly your team member doing all the work, then that's like really freaky. So by being ahead on communication, you will alleviate all that stress. So like if you, before your mentor calls or before your conversations with them, instead of just waiting to see what happens in that conversation, lead and guide the conversation with something like, hey, I just want to let you know, here's how many appointments I have ahead of me. Here's what I'm working on. Here's the biggest challenge I have. Here's my potential solution. Is there anything that you think I missed? How do you think your leader would respond to that?
I mean, I've tried that. I've been doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't like, maybe it was just like the time of day or what have you, but there was like a very like awkward like ending conversation just today. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what else to do.
I think just keep doing it, right? And I would ask, what's wrong?
Okay.
Right? Because that's probably coming from a place of fear and pain, right? And so then the question is, do you know what's going on with them?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just sitting there not you specifically, people, right? Waiting for the leader to tell you what to do or to pour into you, but they're just people. So what if we just said, what's going on with you? Like, how are you? Like, do we know our leader's love language? Just like we would want to know our team members' love language, do we know our leader's love language? And then can we give them love in the way they need it versus guessing? Because I'm betting your leader's love language is different than yours. What's your love language?
Mine?
Yeah.
Acts of service.
Okay. So do you know do you have any idea what your leaders might be?
I don't know. Yeah, no. Receiving gifts, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe try that.
Just ask them to take the test.
You can try.
Oh, hey, by the way, could you take this test for me?
I mean, you'd have to use your mad sales skills,
Right.
I think.
Got it.
Does anybody else know their leader's love language? Kim, what's yours?
My leader's love language is acts of service.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Kasha.
Huh?
Interestingly enough, same as yours.
Pamela, what's your love language? Do you know?
Yeah.
So you can just Google like the 5 love languages. Do you know the book I'm referring to?
No.
So there's this book that's like pretty famous. It's called The 5 Love Languages. It was initially done for married couples. And basically everyone gives and receives love in a different way. And so the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, what do you say? Acts
Acts of service,
physical touch,
and
gifts.
yeah, gifts.
Okay. So usually where a lot of communication and appreciation breakdowns come into play is because we're speaking different love languages. So like if my love language in theory was words of affirmation, I might speak to Kasha in terms of words of affirmation all the time. And she's like, stop it with your flattery. Can you just do something for me and make it a little easier on me? So then we would have a disconnect. So I would be like trying to love on her, but maybe she would not feel loved. So if you know what your love language is and you know what the love language is of the person you're trying to connect with, it's a lot easier to connect with them.
Okay.
So I just Google 5 love languages.
Got it. I can do it.
Cool.
Would that be, sorry, I know it's like time, but would that be weird as something like with a new builder? So you've got like a new person on your team, you've had that first kind of business meeting, maybe you're having like your second business meeting or mentor call, whatever it might be, but it's kind of your second interaction. Would it be weird to, have them take that test? Like, is that too soon?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because remember your intentions.
Yeah.
So what it would sound like would be like, hey, I want to make sure that you feel appreciated. So my tendency would be to just recognize you and tell you're doing great, and that might not be the most valuable for you. Would you mind taking 5 minutes? Like, usually when people say, do you know what the love languages are, and they don't, like they either already know, or they're like, what does that mean? And when you explain it to them, everybody wants to know.
Right.
So when I was in corporate, I would have new hires take it.
Okay.
Like people that just came on my team, I was like, first day I need to know your love language. Here's why. And that really, really helped. And then you can, build your team strategy to account for that.
Right.
So you know that if you have a person who's quality time, like you can't have 30-minute mentor calls.
Yeah.
Right? You know that you're going to need to keep space for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise they're going to feel like they're rushed and they're not loved. And so, I just think that's really important. And it's just such an easy shortcut. So, cool. All right, so for those of you that are new to my stuff, I'm just going to show you real quick just where you can learn more, different like sales training stuff. So if you go to, actually let me put this in the chat. Okay, so if you go to cnmcommunity.com/skills, it'll actually redirect you to the sales training stuff. And so you can see like the different workshops that are available and the different online courses that are there. So that's all. So I just wanted to show you Pamela, who's on the line, and anyone who's on Facebook Live. And so we can put that out. Cool? All right, so I think we're done. And I'm going to post this recording in the group. That sound good? And so Pamela, now you know what to expect for next time.
Awesome.
All right, cool. All right, well, have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you.